And we are live.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Esl. I am the chairperson of the Community Action Board. And I welcome you this evening as we gather together for this important meeting. I thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules, especially a week before Thanksgiving. And people are busy with family, work, community stuff, and yet they find time to participate in this important meeting. So I thank you very much for that. Anita, if you could be so kind and do the roll call.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chair. Okay, so everybody listen and please put yourself on mute if you're not speaking so that we can get through this as easily as possible. Okay. The Honorable Eric Adams, Candace Julian.
Present.
Hi, Candace.
Hi there. Good evening, everyone.
The Honorable Jeffrey Aubrey, Louise Emanuel.
Here.
Hi, Louise. Boricua College, Moises Pereira or Ismael Sanchez. The Honorable Gail Brewer, Jessica Mates. Victoria Camarada Curto.
Hold on.
I see you, Victoria. Thank you.
Okay.
Yesenia Cardona, I just heard from her.
Present.
Okay, great. Claudia Koger? No. Cynthia Cox? The Honorable Bill de Blasio, Wanufi Teshom? No. Anderson Dane? The Honorable Ruben Diaz Jr., Monica Major?
Present.
Hi, Monica.
Hi.
EDSI, Greg Hambrick. He was just there. I saw Greg before. Okay.
My apologies, I'm here. My
it's okay.
was stuck, but I'm here.
Oh, that's all right. I knew you were there. Honorable Matthew Eugene. Francisco Feliz. Isaac Heschel.
Present.
Honorable Corey Johnson, Michelle Peregrine. Rhonda Joseph. Wayne King. I saw
Present.
Wayne. Hi,
Yeah,
Wayne.
present. How are you?
Good. Miss Paul Mai.
Present.
Thank you, Paul. Morris Heights Health Center, Gideon Dunkley. Neighborhood Housing Services of Staten Island, Joseph Pierre. Nope.
Gideon Dunkley's present. I'm sorry, I was muted.
Oh, okay, Gideon. I thought I recognized your phone number. Okay, thank you. Basmati Patel.
Present.
Okay. Claudia Perez. The Honorable Bill Perkin, Taj Berrien. Victor Reyes. The Honorable Donovan Richards, Susie Tannenbaum.
Good evening. Present.
God, hi, Susie.
Hi.
Christian Rodriguez.
Present.
Okay. Hello. And for Deborah Rose, Christian Ravello.
Present.
There he is. Good.
Yes.
Thank you, Christian. Feel better.
Thank you.
Jackie Rowe Adams, St. Francis College, Tyranny Street. No. Leah Smurl, Robert Oliva. No. For the Honorable Scott Stringer, Anderson Ortiz. No. Derek Tate.
Here.
Hey, Derek. Christopher Toomer. Oh, Anderson Deng is here. I see. I see he's here in the chat. He just put his. So let me put him in. Okay. Christopher Toomer. No. Ariel Savransky from UJA.
Here. Present.
Hi.
Hello.
United Neighborhood Houses, Nora Moran.
Hi, present.
Hi, Nora. Thank you. United Parcel Service, Janet Delugos.
Hi, present. Evening.
Hi, how are you, Janet?
How are you?
Good. Linda Walters. I know she was here. I heard her before.
Present. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Justin Westbrook Glory. Okay. The Honorable Jumani Williams, Elizabeth Kennedy. No. Veronica Aves. Michael Twomey. Patty Ann Williams. Okay, 1, 2, 3. '23, we have Mr. Chairman, you can proceed.
Thank you very much, Anita. I appreciate it. It's good to see that we have quorum. We begin this evening with recognizing the election of Anderson Deng for CAB Region 7. Representative Anderson Deng first served on NAB 13 from 2000.
Manhattan 3.
I'm sorry, Manhattan 3 from 2010 to 2018. And during that time, he also served on the CAB as a NAB chairperson representative for Manhattan and Queens and served with distinction on both boards. He rejoined the NAB Manhattan 3 in 2020 and has now been elected CAB Region number 7 representative. It's a pleasure to welcome you back, Anderson. I will now entertain a vote to accept Anderson Deng to the CAB board.
Motion to accept, Linda.
Linda, thank you. Seconded by
Gideon
Sumati
Dunkley.
Patel.
Gideon Dunkley. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Mr. Anderson, would you like to say a few words to the board? Mr. Anderson Deng.
Yeah, he's on the phone. He's
Yeah, thank you.
low
Okay.
Head of
down.
a few words, indeed, right?
Short
Welcome back, though.
Welcome
Short
back, Anderson.
and to the point. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. To send the invitation. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pleasure to join the big family here again. Yeah. Hopefully we can serve or better serve the community and then help building a stronger community all here. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher Toomer,
I don't think he's here yet. Unless he's on the phone. Christopher Tilmar? No,
okay.
we could
Well-
you could still, oh, excuse me, you can still vote him.
Okay.
Mm.
Tonight, we also recognize the election for CAB Region 13, Representative Christopher Toomer. Christopher joined NAB Brooklyn 16 in 2019, and soon, because of his vice president, became the vice president of the board. Mr. Toomer is currently serving as chairperson of the Economic Development Committee of Community Board 16 and is a very active member of the Ocean Hill Brownsville community. We welcome Christopher to the CAB as the newly elected CAB region representative. I will now entertain a motion to vote on his acceptance.
Christian Rodriguez,
Christian Rodriguez, thank you. Seconded by
Vasumati Patel.
Ms. Patel, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Do we have any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Mr. Toomer is now officially a member of the board. It's difficult to properly thank and say farewell to Christian Rodriguez, who unfortunately, because of term limits, has reached the end of a term as a representative to CAB Region 10. Christian has served with incredible distinction on this CAB board these past 6 years, as she had, together with her late husband, Andreas Rodriguez of blessed memory, on NAB Brooklyn 1 from 2003 to 2009. We wish her all the very best in her future endeavors, and we know that she will always continue to be a champion for our communities in need. Thank you so very much for your service, Christian. Would you like to say a few words to the board?
yes. I need to say that it's been a privilege for me and my late husband also to serve the community through this board. Here, we learned a lot. We learned how to serve and provide good quality of life to our neighbors. And we were supported by fantastic people that opened their arms to us and taught us how to be the advocates and the people that we needed to be in order to bring all these quality resources to improve the lives of everyone near us. So I thank you for the enrichment that you have brought into my life. Everything that you have taught me and everything that I know, I owe it to you guys, not only the board, but also all the members. And I encourage every one of you to continue being the voice of your community, because everybody is in need of being heard. And
Yes.
you are the representative of these people. They're not sitting here with us, but you are representing them and speaking for them. So thank you. I know that you're doing wonderful things and you will continue doing what you've been doing. Congratulations to all, and you will be greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian, for those heartfelt and warm words. We can't thank you enough for the outstanding service, and we're gonna miss you, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll miss you more.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, we don't have to have a vote on this. That was my error there. But muchísimas gracias, Christian. We love you and we hope to see you in the community.
You will. You will.
Okay, good,
Thank you. Thank you, Anita. You're special.
good. Mr. Chairman, Christopher Toomer just came in, so I don't know if you would like for
Okay.
him to say a few words.
We'll ask him. Mr. Toomer, thank you for joining this board. It's a privilege to have you on this board. We officially recognized and voted you into this board before you connected in. If you have a few words you would like to say to the board, please do so.
Well, first off, I'd like to apologize for my lateness. Just running behind with work assignments. Thank you very much. It's an honor and privilege to be on the board. I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you. And having been on the NAB, a little exposure with the proposals and the different resources that are available to the community. And there's much work to be done. And I'm just happy to be a part of it and looking forward to adding and being a value add to this board and advisory board moving forward.
Thank you, sir. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We also say farewell this evening as there is a newly elected mayor and there are changes in city government. So there will be public sector representatives who may not return in January. We thank you for your outstanding service on the CAB and wish you all the very best in your future endeavors. Thank you. Moving on. In the board packet, there was the CAB New York City whistleblower policy, which I believe the members have to sign and send back to you.
No,
Anita?
they just have to get it every year. So
Okay.
it was put in their packet. So we just want to acknowledge that it's in their packet as part of this meeting.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you.
Sure.
Moving on. In the packet, there was the minutes for the full meeting of the CAB board, which took place on September 2nd. I will now entertain a motion to vote to accept those minutes.
Motion, excuse me. Motion to accept, Linda.
Linda, thank you.
Dunkley, second.
Seconded by
Gideon Dunkley.
Gideon, thank you for the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. We will now ask our Senior Budget Director, Artis Samuyan, who does an outstanding job in her position, to give the financial program quarterly report.
Thank you,
Artis?
Mr. Chair. Good evening, all. Thanks for your service, Christian Rodriguez, and welcome to all the new members. I'm now going to share my screen for the second time on Zoom, and my computer's a little slow, so please bear with me. Can folks see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the second report for city fiscal year 22. Thank you, Anita, for presenting the first. For city fiscal year 22, we have a budget of just under $36 million. And it's divvied up into three main categories. We have our program contracts, which the bulk of our funding is spent on. Currently, it's 80%. We have our other contractual services, which supports our program contracts. That's 6%, and personal services comes in at 14%. To dig a little deeper into the program contracts, the NDA development group, a little more than 50% is $15.7 million that's budgeted. The Immigration Refugee Assistance Program is one of our smallest, and it's just under $600,000. The HRA Legal Services contracts is coming in at 2.1 million, and that's 7%. The NICALI, actually, the NICALI is the smallest, just over $500,000. The Fatherhood Initiative is 2.8 million. Adolescent literacy is 827,000, and SYP in FY22 is coming in at $6.1 million. The total program contracts budget is $28.6 million. Year-to-date expenditures, we have just about $7 million. And you'll notice that there's no expenses in the NDA development group or the HRA legal services group. For the NDA development group, DYCD, we had a new renewal of contracts in city fiscal year 22, and that has to go through a registration process. MOX, the Mayor's Office of Contracts, has rolled out a new registration system called Passport. And along with the pandemic that we are been experiencing, it has greatly slowed down the registration of contracts. So on October 27th, when we ran the data for this report, only about 20% of the contracts had been registered. They had just been registered, and expenses are starting to come in. But when we completed this report, there were no expenses at this point. We are still confident that once contracts, the registration process ramps up and contracts are registered, that we'll see expenses and will be reflected in the January report. So overall spending is at 7%, and the biggest, the highest program area here is SYEP. As folks know, SYEP occurs in July and August of every year, and it ends after the first 2 months. So we always have 100% or close to expenses at this time of the year. So that's what's bringing our expenses up. Fatherhood also has a decent showing at 21% of its budget at 579,000. DYCD usually gives advances to our CBOs at the start of the fiscal year so that they can start providing services even though they don't have actual expenses from which to claim. So you'll notice that our year-to-date payments is higher than our expenses. And the reason is the difference is advances that we've given out to those CBOs. So for example, if we take a look at fatherhood, we have made payments of $1.3 million, but expenditures are only $579,000. Our accounts payable folks starts to recoup these advances starting in January. And at the end of the year, payments and expenditures are usually the same. So that's it for our program contracts. The other contractual services, of which technical assistance is the largest, these are spending categories that support the program contracts that DYCD spends in-house. And as I said, technical assistance is the largest at $1.6 million, represents 75% of other contractual services, and have current expenses of 43% of $693,000. The fiscal field reviews, $193,000, that's the second largest, and we have expenditures of 9% of that. We also have budgeted for fiscal agent services, marketing, publications, employee development and recruitment, travel, technology, board development, stipend, and central insurance program. Overall expenses in the audit contractual services is $728,000, and that's 34% of the $2.2 million budget. Rounding out the budget is the personnel services, and these are spent on DYCD salaries. We have expenditures of $1.4 million to date, and that's 28% of the budget. And now we'll take a look at the comparison of the movement we made from the September 2nd meeting. At that time, we had expenditures overall of $21,803. And that's for the reason I explained above the registration registration of contracts. That's what's driving that. Year to date, we have $9 million. So that's a significant jump. For payments, we was $44.6 million of the September meeting, and we're now at $10.2 million. So we're moving in the right direction. The hiccups that we are experiencing, we're quite confident that once that's resolved, spending will mirror previous years, which is about 98% of the budget. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions that folks may have.
Does anyone have any questions for Artis?
At me.
Artis, you've done an incredible job where it was so informative that no one has any questions for you.
That's what I was going for. Thank you all so
That's
much.
right.
And again, Christina, thank you so much for your service and welcome.
It's
to
a
the new board
pleasure.
members.
It's a privilege. Thank you.
Have a good evening all.
Good evening.
Thank you, Artis. I will now entertain a motion to accept the financial program quarterly report.
Christian Rodriguez.
Christian Rodriguez, thank you. Seconded by
Basumati Patel.
Ms. Patel. Thank you for the second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. I will now ask our extremely talented Deputy Commissioner Mike Babbitt to present the Commissioner's report.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, CAB members. Both those along for the ride thus far and those who will be staying with us through the transitions ahead. It's my pleasure and privilege to deliver the Commissioner's report. I will strive to be brief because I know we have an interesting presentation coming up shortly. First, I'll give you an update on the Nda RFP. The agency is now in the process of evaluating the proposals. Our procurement evaluator training already happened from end of September to early October. The proposals were distributed at the end of last month and through the beginning of November. Both staff and CAB and NAB evaluators have between 1 to 2 months to read, depending on how many proposals they have received. The evaluator conferences will be held in the month of January, and we are still looking to meet our timeline of starting the new NDA contracts in July. Second item I want to bring to your attention is in the realm of technical assistance. As you may recall, I believe at a previous board meeting, and there was some emphasis in one of the program committee meetings, we engaged an MWBE vendor, Benjamin and Young, and they were contracted to work on ways to engage more youth members to participate on the NABs. So staff has received their report and is reviewing their recommendations, as well as some of the recommendations the liaisons over time have come up with. We've been meeting with the Strategic Communications Unit at DYCD to look to implement some of the suggestions, such as promoting civic engagement through our existing youth programs and working with the agency's recently deputized youth ambassadors to form street teams and help spread the word about the NABs. We're also looking at some ways to reinvigorate our use of social media to attract young people to joining the NABs. And we're looking to try out some of these tactics ahead of when we start the next community needs assessment. So you'll likely hear more about that at the January CAB meeting. Third item is the next community needs assessment. So just thinking ahead, staff will be scheduling meetings in February with the NABs to once again go over the results from the 2019 community needs assessment and to map out strategies to increase survey collection in each of the neighborhood tabulation areas within each of the NDAs where they're situated. Staff has been working with the IT unit and the planning and program integration evaluation units to devise an electronic version of the survey. So we'll have more on that as it develops, but we're encouraged and looking forward to being able to have an additional online tool as a companion to the paper street surveying that we do. The chair has noted this is a time of transition because of our most recent elections. And so please know that the staff is working with our intergovernmental affairs unit in preparation for the about 40 new city council members, 4 new borough presidents, new council speaker, new comptroller, and of course, a new mayor. Not said earlier, but I do want to say, we anticipate that this is the end of the term of service for our current commissioner. And I want to use this as an opportunity as we thanked and acknowledge the board members for their stalwart service. I certainly thank Commissioner Chong for allowing me to deliver this report and also for the stewardship that he's provided to the Csbg portfolio, to the NAB and the CAB, and certainly to the agency as a whole. The incoming elected officials will not only affect NAB membership recommendation, but as was pointed out, the CAB's public service representatives. So we do hope to have the CAB public sector in place as soon as possible in the new year. Closing on in this item, echoing the chairperson, we want to again thank everyone for their stalwart service on the CAB. A bit of internal business for the NABLU staff. You may recall back in January of 2019, Jeff Cohn joined the team and was hired as a NABLU liaison, who has worked since in 8 of the NABs in Brooklyn and Queens over the past 3 years. Jeff has helped guide his NABs through the 2019 Community Needs Assessment, helped doing the priority settings for the NDA RFP, has attended and participated in various trainings and other events, took on additional and very helpful duties as the communications officer for the unit and assistant administrator for the CAB. Jeff has been a wonderful colleague and carried out these duties very professionally, compassionately, and in the spirit of DYCD's mission. It's my pleasure, although it brings a little sadness, to let the board know that Jeff's been offered and has accepted a position within New York City Police Department as an administrative community relations specialist and be leaving in the new year. But I do feel when someone has gotten community action in their blood and in their bones, they bring that to their future work. So we thank Jeff for the faithful service he will give to the NYPD and the faithful service he's given to DYCD. And I'll pause for a reaction because I didn't mean to step on that. Yes, let's clap it up for Jeff Cohn. He's smiling. Anything you want to say real quick, Jeff?
I really appreciate that. It's bittersweet, but I feel like I learned so much from everybody, especially CAB, NAB members, and colleagues. That hopefully the success that we achieved, in this program can be brought over to civilian community engagement at the NYPD.
Thanks again, Joe. My last item is to apprise the CAB that DYCD has just composed a new equity statement. And I want to touch base on this. And I know time is not always our friend in the meetings. And I know that we have another presentation. But what I'm hoping to do is to share some information now in the commissioner's report, and then we'll dedicate more time in the January meeting to discuss this. So for the moment, suffice it to say, in 2018, the agency released an equity statement but with the many things that have happened over the past 2 years and the many activities and campaigns throughout the city and within the agency to become an anti-racist city agency and to better reflect the direction we are going and hope to continue to go, it was felt there was a need to revise the equity statement. So what I would like to do for the moment is read it to you just so you begin to be familiar with it. And what I was asked to do, which I don't know if there's time to do, but we have been asking ourselves 3 questions about this statement. So I'm going to read the questions before I even read the statement. So internally, we're asking ourselves, when you hear the equity statement, what is it DYCD is doing well that supports the equity statement that we should continue? What should DYCD start doing that would support the equity statement? And what should DYCD stop doing that doesn't support the equity statement? So what I will ask perhaps is, since the chat function is available, as I read the equity statement, if you wish to comment on any of those 3 questions, what DYCD is doing well to support the equity statement, what we should start doing, what we should stop doing, that will allow NABLU to carry some recommendations back to the work group. And I can work with the other deputy commissioners and some of the other staff that are looking to operationalize and make good on the equity statement. So I'll close the commissioner's report by reading the equity statement to this group. It reads as follows. Actually, let me share screen for the moment. I'm reading off of a draft document because we haven't put it on the website just yet, but it will probably be a little easier on you if you see it. Please advise, Anita, if people can see my screen.
Got it.
Okay, great. So I will read it to you, though.
Yes.
The New York City Department of Youth and Community Development, DYCD, strives to alleviate the effects of poverty and provide opportunities for New Yorkers to reach their full potential. We acknowledge that institutional racism and discrimination have been and remain significant drivers of poverty and inequities in New York City neighborhoods. We recognize the role that the policies and practices of systems and institutions, including NYC government agencies such as DYCD, may play in perpetuating structural inequities. In response, we commit to evaluate internal and external DYCD policies and practices that have allowed structural inequities to persist, which can inform our goal of equitable implementation of operational, administrative, and programmatic functions and distribution of financial resources. We are committed to the goal of becoming an anti-racist city agency, recognizing this will be a journey and commitment that requires sustained efforts of analysis and accountability. As a learning organization, we will hold ourselves accountable and adhere to our guiding principles. When we make mistakes along the way, we will acknowledge them, adapt, and continue to move forward. Our vision is a New York City in which everyone flourishes and outcomes are not determined by race, gender identity, sexual orientation, income, neighborhood, immigration status, or disability. So that is our statement, and I will ask if you have comments related to the statement to feel free to put those in the chat. And I'm trying to figure out how to disable sharing. Oh, stop share button. That's it. That is a long day already. Sorry. That concludes the commissioner's report.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. Does anyone have any questions for Mike? Thank you for your report. Thank you for the outstanding job you do. We recognize it's not one person, it's a team effort. You, the commissioner, Nda, the rest of the DYCD staff. And for those who are leaving this board, I'm sure that I speak in all of their names to thank you for the outstanding work you guys do. And we just want to point out that it doesn't go unnoticed. And speaking about the mission statement. I believe it's well-written, to the point, and speaks of what we see every single day collaboratively as we work together, the CAB in conjunction with DYCD. So my personal opinion is that it's extremely well executed.
Very well said.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Christian. I see a couple of comments in the chat. So thank you all. We look forward to revisiting this issue. And should you have other observations kind of off schedule, just let Anita know and I'll carry that back to the group as we look for other ways to operationalize the statement and make good on the spirit of the statement. Thanks again.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion to vote to accept the commissioner's report.
Motion to accept, Linda.
Linda, thank you. Seconded by
Rhonda Joseph.
Rhonda Joseph, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. On October 28th, we had the executive committee meeting. And I will begin with Linda Walters, Vice Chairperson, from the Governance Committee, who will give her report. Linda?
Thank you. The committee met on Wednesday, October 27th, and the minutes are in the board meeting packet. The CAB vacancies, public sector, 2 mayoral appointees, most likely will not be appointed until the new administration is in place, which is in January. Low income sector, Region 1, NDA, Bronx 1 and 2. Staff is working to identify candidates. And NAB, Chairperson, Representative Bronx and Queens. Staff is working to identify candidates. Action item number 1. CAB Secretary. A call for nomination was made at the September CAB in full meeting. Ms. Susan Tannenbaum has put her name in nomination. Nominations will now be accepted from the floor. Election will proceed. So if anybody wants to throw their hat in the race, excuse me for sniffling, nominations will now be accepted from the floor.
I'd like to say something, if it's okay, before, I don't have to say anything now, but before we close the nominations. If I'd like to, yeah, okay, you let me know.
I think you're running unopposed, Susie, so.
Well, that's what I want to talk about, if I may, for a minute.
Okay,
Is that
go
okay?
right ahead. I'm
Thank you,
sorry.
Linda. Thank you.
You're welcome, sorry.
So good evening, everyone. And I just want to say that, you know, it's an honor to be running for this position. If I'm understanding it correctly, I will be following in the footsteps of Greg Hambrick. And that is an enormous role to fill. I'm honored that our chairs, you know, reached out to me, and also that Anita had a conversation with me to tell me what this role entails. But I do want to say to all of you, I have great admiration and respect for the work that the CAB does and that all of you do. But I also would want you to know that if anyone else is interested in volunteering or nominating themselves to take on this role, I support them in that. So I would ask, you know, those of you who have not served on the executive committee yet to consider taking on this role, and I wonder if, Anita, it would be possible to just tell people what it entails?
Sure. What it entails is, as Susie has just said, is you're part of the executive committee. You're an officer of the board. You take the roll call that I just did previously at the beginning of the meeting. And you let the chair know when a quorum has been reached. And you also participate in the executive committee meetings that are at least 2 weeks before the board meets this cabin full meeting. You can participate on the other committees if you like as well. And when the staff creates the minutes, you just look them over briefly to see that everything that was in the meeting was covered, and that there's no glaring mistakes on the transcribing. So that's what the job entails, and you support your fellow officers on the board. Sometimes the officers will fill in for each other if the chairperson of each committee is unable to attend the meeting. So that's pretty much what it is. It's just a little bit more of an extension than what you're doing right now and what you do 5 times a year when you come to the cabin full meeting. So we welcome, anybody who thinks they would like to be a part of it, who wants to be an officer. Even our people who just got here, our new people. If you're interested, please put your hat in the race.
So to clarify, my point, if I may, and thank you, Anita, for providing that description. I will do whatever I'm asked to do to help move the business of the CAB forward, because I very much believe in the mission of this wonderful entity. But among other things, to be very honest with everyone, I have told the chair and Anita that I firmly believe in diversity in leadership. And so I am also asking my colleagues here to consider. Anita assures us it's not a very time-consuming responsibility. So if you would like to join the executive committee, I would encourage you to consider it as well. If people continue not to step up, I'm happy to serve. So thanks.
That sounds great, Susan.
Thank you, Susie.
The only other thing I would say, it's just to fill in for the next two years. And then we have another election for the full executive committee. So that'll happen in 2023.
So what are the updates then? What are the additional responsibility and the strategy that you are talking about to put the committee moving forward and make them more successful for the coming year?
Yeah, that's what you're filling in the position, because the person, actually it was the officer that was the head of the program committee, came to the end of her term. So her term was up. And then Greg, who was the secretary, ran for that position. So Greg is now the chairperson of the program committee. And then, so that left the secretary's position open. So that's why we're looking for nominations tonight. And Susie very generously put her hat into the ring, but it's open to all board members. Doesn't matter who you are, when you got here, it's open. And there'll probably be other positions open later on in the year too. So in the next couple of years. So it's here.
I think that current and prior exec board members can sidebar with colleagues too, if they don't choose to use this forum. But I will say, speaking about and to Anita and her team, they will support the board however easily DYCD can, so just consider that, there's a role that you play that DYCD on its own can't. But, we are supportive of your interest in playing those roles, and we will provide support as we can.
It also looks good on a resume. Your volunteer activities, civic engagement activities.
Linda, you want to continue?
Oh, well, I said that the election will proceed. Do I take we're gonna continue to reach out, so I don't have to take a nomination on this tonight, correct?
To me, it seems like.
Yes, because the nomination period's been open since the September meeting.
This is the final moment for nominations.
Okay, no problem. It's just that when I heard Susan's speech and I said, okay, maybe I should wait to see if anybody else was going to throw their hat in maybe later. But okay, so I'm gonna accept them.
Later is now. Later is now.
Oh, no problem. Okay, so I'm going to accept Susan Tannenbaum's nomination.
Yes.
So am I gonna
ask for a vote?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Ask for a vote.
I
You
will,
accept the nomination?
I
A
will
motion. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Linda, gives me great pleasure to be the first on this motion. Even Susie's speech proves the point why she should be on the executive board. Being so humble when you're so active and you do so much is incredible. So it's an honor for me to be the first one to the motion.
Second?
You need a second.
Craig Hambrick, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose? So move. Welcome, Susan Tannenbaum.
Thank you very much, Linda. And thank you everyone for putting your faith in me. So I look forward to joining the executive board. Thank you.
Great, great. Glad to have you.
Congratulations. You're a breath of fresh air.
Oh, thank you, Gideon.
You're quite welcome. Unfortunately, I have to drop off now to join another call. So good evening, everyone, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Be safe and be healthy. Bye.
Thank you, Gideon.
Thank you, Gideon.
Thank you, Gideon.
So, Mr. Chairman, can we have a vote to accept Linda's report? The governance.
Absolutely, absolutely. Unless Linda has something else to add.
No, I don't. No,
Okay.
I don't.
Linda, thank you so much for your report. Thank you for the outstanding work you do. I will now entertain a motion to accept the governance committee report.
Christian Rodriguez.
Christian Rodriguez, thank you. Seconded by
By Linda?
Linda, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. I will now ask our good friend, a man who really doesn't need much of an introduction, Greg Hambrick, to present the program committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Before I start with the report, Susie, congratulations. You know, I've been a fan of the Susie Tannenbaum Fan Club for a long time, so very happy. And on a serious note, you will be supported not only by the members of the executive committee, but members of DYCD and your fellow board members. So I have no doubt you will do well. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. That means a lot to me, Greg.
Yes, absolutely.
And you know that it's mutual. We have mutual admiration society here.
I appreciate it. So the program committee met on October 20th. There were 2 presentations done at that particular meeting. So the first presentation was done by Cindy Andriazzi, who's the Director of Adult Literacy at the Inwood Community Center, focusing on adult literacy. Very good presentation where she talked about the 250 students that are part of that adult literacy class. So she went through a lot of what that curriculum looks like. And of course, she focused a good bit of time of how she was able to administer that class and those services during the pandemic and how they had to pivot to be able to administer those classes virtually. She talked about some of the successes in doing that and obviously the challenges. Very good presentation, obviously still finding a way to be able to help adults with that particular curriculum. A lot of the students are involved in industries such as healthcare and other related type of career paths and so forth. And she did mention that slowly they are going back to live and in-person classes. So very good presentation there. Very passionate about the work that they do there. The second presentation was done by Mark Villanati, who is the immigration attorney, manager family and immigration attorney for NIMIC, Northern Manhattan Improvement Corporation. And obviously they focus a lot on immigrant services. He also talked a lot about the services that they offer and how he was also in a position to be able to pivot because of the pandemic to be able to administer these services. Talked very specific about one client that came in that was an undocumented client that suffered from domestic violence and how that organization was able to help her. So if you think about it, undocumented, suffering from domestic violence and in the midst of a pandemic. So thank God that they were able to be in a position to offer the services to someone like that. Their services span the gamut, including education and career services, ECL, high school equivalency services, mental health counseling, and so forth. He also said they're looking to slowly pivot into being able to continually in person be able to support the community and the residents and the undocumented immigrants that look to them for their services. So 2 very good presentations. There was some question and answering after that, and then shortly thereafter, the meeting adjourned. Any questions on any 2 of those presentations? And if not, thank you so much for listening, and I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Greg. We appreciate your report and your dedication and the outstanding work you do for our committee for so long in so many different roles. I will now entertain a motion to accept the program committee report.
Motion to accept by Ariel.
Ariel, thank you. Seconded by
Linda,
Linda. Thank you for the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Thank you. I will now ask Ariel Savransky, who does an incredible job as the chairperson of the Strategic Partnership Committee, to present her report.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the background noise. I also want to extend my congratulations to Susie, and we're looking forward to having you as a part of our executive committee. So we met on October 21st, and we also had two presentations, one by the New York City Racial Justice Commission, specifically talking about some of the things they want to see coming down through the Charter Revision Commission. So their mission is to really uproot structural racism for all New Yorkers. And they're doing this through looking at a series of issues: criminal justice, housing, environmental justice, civic engagement. They held some sessions earlier this year in collaboration with UICD with youth to talk about the concerns that they specifically are seeing. They discussed getting basic needs met through education, housing, childcare, ability to access government services, and language access. And I think this kind of mirrors a lot of what we see with the needs assessment that DYCD conducts. So there's definitely a lot of synergy between our groups. They also talked about getting more community voices in government, and specifically some of the ballot proposals that they're hoping to see on the November 2022 ballot. There is input sessions coming up in the next month, and those are going to be shared with you all. So hopefully some of you can participate. I think it's really important to kind of be more aware about what ballot proposals are going to be voted on in the next election. We also had a presentation from Jeanette Wilson. She's the chairperson of NAB Bronx 11. And she talks about some of the work that they were able to do during the pandemic, specifically kind of catering to the community in which they're working. So they were able to basically put together a community center to serve kind of as a hub for whatever services they were seeing were needed in their communities. So they used this hub as a food delivery service, bringing PPE services. They distributed canned goods, fresh vegetables, or whatever other food items they could get. They hosted a Halloween grab and go, and they had about 300 children participate in that. They were also able to offer the space to other community-based organizations to host events free of charge. And they had a clothing drive. They've done flea markets. They've really been able to kind of serve as like a community gathering place. And it was really inspiring to hear the ability of a community to come together in the face of this pandemic. And I know that the community really appreciated all of the things that they were able to bring to them. We talked about NAB membership and recruitment, and I know Linda summed up some of the vacancies that we're seeing. I will just add that the Strategic Partnerships Committee is planning to focus our session in January, looking specifically at strategy to fill some of the slots, especially given that the new administration is all going to be officially sworn in at the beginning of January. So this is kind of really a time for us to drill down and make sure that the incoming members and administration officials know that they have a slot on this board and kind of understand the work that we all do here. And Mike highlighted the status of the NDA proposal, so I won't go into detail with that, but I want to thank the CAB members. There are 5 of you who are planning to help read those proposals. I think it's a really important perspective that you guys bring to those evaluations. And then last SYP, the summer work session was actually extended to mid-October, so we don't have an update yet, but we will hopefully have that at the next committee meeting. And that's all I've got.
Ariel, thank you so much for your report and for the wonderful work you do as a chairperson. Thank you. I will now entertain a motion to accept the strategic partnership.
Motion accepted.
You guys cut out each other.
That's right. Okay, go ahead.
So we have Linda made the motion and Mrs.
Okay, Linda,
Okay.
thank you, and Ms. Patel, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays?
Robin, I'm around the place.
Anyone abstaining? So moved. Moving on to the presentation. The annual report on the CSBG funding and programs. Our Deputy Commissioner Mike Bobbitt.
Thank you, Chair. Anita or someone, maybe it's David, there's a PowerPoint presentation we want to walk through, so I'll ask someone to power that up. So thank you. I gather members of the board have become accustomed to this presentation. We dedicate time in the November meeting for this. It's my pleasure to introduce some of the team. So I used to deliver this presentation sort of on my own in my prior capacity as Assistant Commissioner. I've asked our Associate Commissioner for Community Action, Literacy and Immigrant Services, Ron Zhang, along with Senior Director for Literacy and Immigrant Services, Kathy Almazar, and Senior Director for NDA Initiatives, Ebony Jordan Wilson, to join us. And not that you're bored of hearing from me, but I thought it was nice that you would hear from more of the program staff. So I'll start the presentation, and then at some point I will turn it over to them. You're probably familiar with some of this this work. Next slide, please. Whoever's advancing the slide, you can go to, thank you. Okay. So just as a reminder, we know how we receive and how we use the community services block grant funds. And you have a snapshot of kind of where we've gone from 1964 under the LBJ administration, bringing us to the merger in 1996. And excuse me for the type, about 2020, as artists reported, that's actually the FY21 figure for the contract. Sorry about that. Next slide, please. I remind periodically that our use of federal funds relates to the federal fiscal year, and that runs from October 1st to September 30th. But in the way that we administer our contracts, like other city agencies, we use the city's fiscal year, July 1st to June 30th. What's good about what we have in place, the arrangement we have with the Department of State, is they receive our reports, and the information I'm sharing with you is the information that we shared and transmitted to the state using the city fiscal year. So everything's kind of neat and tidy. The contracts and the contractual expectations run from July of one year through June 30th of the next year, which allows us after the close of the year to review the performance. And then here in November, we can discuss that performance with you. Next slide, please. All right. So since the senior directors and the associate commissioner are present, they will be able to discuss the impact of the work. They're projecting the actual results with you directly. And I will chime in because I don't want to bring everybody with the program portfolio to this meeting. So I'll do a few outliers, but we'll start with Ebony Jordan Wilson. We'll address this in the next couple of slides.
Thanks, Mike. Good evening, everyone. So for NDA High School, so as you all know, schools were open and closed due to the pandemic. Our programs had to pivot to doing remote services. And so enrollment for high school is a little lower than normal, which is to be expected, as well as the outcome percentages. So we're not that far off, but we're way lower than usual. For NDA Opportunity Youth, so we actually had an increase in enrollment during the pandemic. And that's because providers were able to shift to online internships, as well as DYCD partner with the New York City Census 2020. And we were able to get young people in Opportunity Youth to work with the census to do phone and text banking. So, the pandemic definitely played a role in getting more young people looking for employment. And so they worked at a lot of the pharmacies and the different businesses, supermarkets that stayed open. And then the remainder, we were able to connect them with the census. So we had a lot of young people that actually worked during the pandemic. And then the work readiness part suffered 56%. And that's because workshops are weekly and they were in person. So programs pivoted to online. And it was a lot of young people, I guess, after being on school all day or, doing their virtual internships, the workshops definitely suffered. Next slide, Anita. All right, so for housing and healthy families. So housing programs numbers were pretty normal, a slight bit higher. And that's because a lot of folks were dealing with, the uncertainty of not working. And so housing services, definitely a lot of people came in for that. So the programs definitely experienced a higher volume than usual. Our programs pivoted to online, as I said, and they did a lot of work over the phone, over emails. Healthy Families, which is a program area that typically does well, definitely had a huge increase due to the pandemic, whether it was food services and looking for employment. Our programs helped people fill out for benefits over the phone, fill out for unemployment. So they received a huge volume of people from the community looking out for services. Next slide. And seniors. So seniors typically does very well. They did well during the pandemic. A lot of our programs, even before the shutdown, started to prepare because seniors were nervous about, started late January. And so by the time that we had the shutdown, a lot of our programs were already prepared. They knew what seniors were homebound, so they did a lot of phone calls, made sure they had Meals on Wheels. And so a lot of our seniors definitely relied on these programs, and they received an increase of participants seeking services. By the time the spring came, they were doing virtual dance classes, virtual cooking classes. And so they helped a lot of seniors be able to log on and experience some kind of connection amongst, their fellow neighbors. And so that was great. Next slide. I'll turn it over to Kathy.
The next slide is adult literacy. I'll cover this. Kathy will do the next slide for immigrant services. Good evening, everybody. My name is Rong Zhang. I'd like to start by actually thanking all the CAB members for the hard work you do and the great contributions you make to the communities. Just hearing what you do and doing meetings in evenings, it's just I just feel like very much impressed by the work you do, and I feel like I have to say a big thank you to all of you. So now I'll turn to the adult literacy program. So when it comes to literacy program, I think most of you know there is what we call adult basic education and also a program that prepares people for their high school diploma. We call them high school equivalency program or GED program. Probably everyone knows that very well. Then another type of program is called English language program or English as a second language program that we'll cover later. But so this NDA adult literacy program, here this program is serves about 1,200, close to 1,300 people a year. Last year we enrolled, we're actually under enrolled. We got 76%, just like what Ebony just said. This is all these are instructional services. Each program has anywhere between, let's say, 50 to 100 students, several classes going on. So pandemic hit, and all had to pivot and switch to remote classes. And so for so many people, so many teachers to begin to all of a sudden change the teaching modality is not an easy lift. First of all, you have to, learn the different kind of platforms to deliver the services, and then you need to have equipment. Students have to learn how to navigate the system. So there is a lot of challenge in terms of delivering instruction, even enrolling students, reaching out to students. So all the traditional, methodologies which we use to recruit people, enroll students, register students, all had to change. All of a sudden, everything was online. It was quite, a change, and it was a challenge. But I'm glad to report that we still, programs, persevered, did relatively well for this program area. The outcomes was extremely low. We projected, 439 people to make educational gain. So I just wanted to let people understand that in order to demonstrate an educational gain, students have to be administered a standardized test, what we call a TAPE test for adult education, adult basic education. So that's a standardized test. That test is usually administered in person, and the test is long. Is about, it includes reading, writing, vocabulary, grammar, math, and it lasts about 6-7 hours to complete the test. So all of a sudden we're going online, and a standardized test, you cannot just administer it any way you want to. So in consideration of test validity and reliability, like, following the all other literacy programs, state ed funded programs, we all kind of, put the tests on hold for 2 years. So educational gain was very low because, most programs basically stopped, officially using the standardized testing. However, in the meantime, the test publisher, also started to train people during the pandemic to conduct testing online, which was extremely challenging. But some programs tried it, so that's why we do have some gains, not a lot, some gains. And in terms of the high school equivalency, that's for students who are ready to actually take that test to get a high school equivalency diploma, known as a GED diploma. So that also suffered a lot because people have to actually schedule tests to take tests at testing centers, throughout the city. Those testing centers are funded through the state education department, and we have no control of that. All of them actually closed during the first during the first half of the pandemic. Then slowly it started to open, but with very limited schedules. But a lot of young people stuck with the program, did worked very hard on this. So we still achieved 57% of that, and it was no easy task under the circumstances. So I just wanted to give you sort of like a background of the program and why, you know, outcomes and gains were very low. And we can move on to the next slide.
One second, technical difficulties.
Is that
We need to cue that music. Oh, no, we don't. Okay.
It's gone. It's next slide.
You know what?
Please mute yourself.
I think that's me again. All right. So immigrant legal services, domestic violence and immigrant workers. So this program area is overseen by HRA. And so their enrollment, they exceeded enrollment and their outcomes and basically the pandemic. So a lot of additional participants coming in to seek services for domestic violence. And so there's an increase in enrollment across the board. For immigrant workers, the same thing. So many different things happened between last year and this year. And so many people coming in. Oh, you changed it, Anita. So Kathy's up next, but basically, yes, basically just an increase of people from the community seeking services coming in, which is great. And so those two program areas exceeded their enrollment and outcomes. All right, next slide. Kathy's up.
Next one is.
Actually, that's wrong again.
Oh, wrong
Okay,
again?
Adolescent.
Very wrong.
All right. So this page is literacy again, so I'll start from the bottom, which is adult literacy ESOL, English as a second language. Okay, program, as I mentioned earlier, is another type of literacy program. Earlier in the program report, you mentioned Inwood Community Services, who did the community director did a report last time. Yeah, that's one of our ESL programs. As you can see, as compared with the adult literacy program, the ABE HSE program, this program area overall did much better because one, I think, as you know, this English language program targets immigrants. Okay, immigrants, I feel like they have more of an urgency to stay in the program, to learn English, because they need English to function, to navigate the systems in this country. So immigrants usually, they stay in with the program, they stay longer, they work harder. So this is actually reflected in the numbers. So our projected enrollment for the ESL program, so the Csbg funded portion, this is only a small portion of our bigger ESL program. So we're projected over about 550 enrolled, and we almost got there. Usually we surpass the number for ESL. We do a lot more, but last year, as I just said earlier, a lot of challenges during the pandemic in terms of the recruitment enrollment and continued attendance in the classes. Outcome, again, this is another standardized test to be used for to measure English, to measure gains in learning English. Is what we call Best Plus test. That one is also an in-person test, and like the other test, the other program, we waived the test for the year also, and the test publisher also provided trainings for online testing. So we have, ESL programs, we provided resources for programs to get trained, for staff to get trained. This ESL test is a little different. It's a one-to-one test. It's actually a face-to-face test. So you get online, you have to have two monitors to show them a picture, and then you ask questions and you give them scores at the same time. A lot of students would have problems with navigating the systems to answer questions. But we did relatively better than the other program area. So 81% of the programs actually, students actually achieved again. So that's great. In general, ESL programs tend to have a lot more people, better results, because of I think is the urgent need to learn a language in a new culture. And I'll move on to the next program area is Adolescent Literacy Program. That's a different type of literacy program targeting middle school students, kids who are 10, 11 years old. That program is very unique because the program has to partner with a school in DOE, and programs are housed in school buildings. So as we all know that during the pandemic, schools were very much disrupted. Schools closed, schools opened, closed again. So there's a lot of disruption. Students had to, and all programs had to, switch to a remote also. So this is an after-school literacy program for kids. Another unique aspect of this program is that students are actually referred by schools. The school would have to look at a student's previous records, academic records, and recommend students who are struggling in reading and writing. So enrollment comes from that school and recommended by the school staff. So last year it was a big challenge. Schools were closed, staff were not available. So our programs really had a difficult time in enrolling students. So it got 66 out of the 178 into the program. And there was no outcome at all, because this program, the outcomes is actually based on the English language arts test administered by the state. During the whole pandemic, the test was suspended. There was no test given. And last April, the test was resumed, but it was all optional for schools. And so most schools opted, not to take the test. Basically, for last year, there was no outcomes. And this year, again, there will be no outcomes because, there was no pre-test, and even though the test is going to be instituted next spring, there is no, test to compare to. So we're working with these providers. We want to take another look at this program because they all work with schools. They have report cards, so this year we want to take a serious look at the report cards, even though we may not be able to report outcomes, we can at least take a look at the report cards and be able to report on, student and whether students are making progress, from quarter to quarter based on teachers, their respective teachers' assessments. So that's what we're looking at right now. Yeah, so that's pretty much for the literacy programs.
I will represent concerning the Fatherhood Initiative and SYP. And that is a pleasure because you can see the enrollment targets as well as the outcome targets were exceeded for the year. And that's been fascinating to watch. And Rong and I have both talked with the director of the initiative as to why that has happened. And it seems that some of the men, the adult men in the fatherhood programs have adapted very well to this virtual environment. So their participation has been robust despite, what are obviously very rough circumstances. That's sort of one to grow on for the future. Summer Youth Employment Program, despite the difficulties experienced generally, had another great year. There are many youth who wanted to be employed over the summer, and as has been presented to the board at other times, to adapt during the pandemic, there was a mix both of in-person job placements, which these numbers reflect. Csbg wages went to in-person job placements, but also some soft skills and internship-like learning opportunities. The Csbg dollars were not used in that way, but CTL and some of the other funding supported that. So SYP actually had a consistently high year, as you might expect in pre-pandemic times. Next slide, please. I'll also present on technical assistance and on the family development credential. And thankfully, we had those teams present to the program committee to increase your awareness of how they operated. There was some disruption to the portfolio related to the pandemic, but overall, the enrollment target was close to the projected, with 79% of those anticipated to receive the credential, and 69% of those that we thought would get their applications and so overall the rate of performance was pretty consistent. It's just that enrollment flagged a little bit, which we attribute to the pandemic. With regard to technical assistance, the percentages look good, but I also want to point to the number. So the number of folks that actually participated in various technical assistance trainings and workshops was pretty high. It wasn't as dramatically high as in the prior, but it was still pretty high. And that's because the agency adapted and providers adapted. We were still doing a lot of teleworking up through June. So whereas this mix would have included perhaps a lot of in-person workshops and some virtual workshops and trainings, by making all of that available digitally, there was a very robust response. Those reporting to gain skills near the target, not quite at the target, but pretty close to the target. We think that has to do also with the adapted environment. And unsurprisingly, that program area did not go anywhere near the admittedly low number of 80 in terms of organizations completing capacity building trainings, meaning on-site trainings. So in a virtual environment, TA providers are not going onto program sites. So we're not surprised that that was a zero this year. That number would probably be impacted as well later on when we do the 2022 report, because it's really only since last month that we've had program oversight and going back to program sites in the way that we did pre-pandemic. Next slide, please. I think we're at the end, but yep, thank you, we're at the end. So I'll wrap by saying, I think one of the, yeah.
Kathy's slide, it seems we passed it. She wasn't able to make her presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Was that comprehensive services for immigrant families? Was that skipped?
Yeah, it's right before immigrant legal HRA program. There is a
after NDA and before
the NDA, immigrant services and family.
Okay.
So if we can shuttle back to that, that'd be great.
All right, so let me just get out of the sharing and go back to see where I can find it, and I'll share it again. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, God. Sorry, Kathy.
Okay.
Let's go back again. Okay.
This reminds me of when you're binge watching something and you fall asleep. And so then you
Right.
try to rewind to the part that you were in. Somehow it gets to the commercials and you get
Right.
stuck in like the ad part and you just get trapped and you can really never get back to the moment, like right when you fell asleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here is the page.
So I don't know if you can see it. I'll make it bigger so people can see it. No, too big.
Yeah.
It's super big. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. No, stop
Oof.
doing that. I'm so
Anita,
sorry.
can you just click backwards though and
It
leave it
won't
open?
let me click backwards. That's what the problem is. But I will go one more time. Share.
Okay, don't touch anything.
I'm not touching anything. I'm not touching anything. I'm moving this
All right,
around.
quick, Kathy, before we lose your audio.
Yes, please, Kathy.
Okay, no problem. So Nda Immigrants, this time around, we normally hit our targets every year for Nda Immigrants, and under this program area, they help people prepare for citizenship, and they also help people to file papers that either for citizenship or basic renewals of green cards and family petitions. So that kind of took a back door on everything because USCIS, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, they basically shut down to a certain degree. They weren't accepting applications. They weren't processing, even though people were working remote because, working remote, you couldn't have these files, these personal information at someone's home. So it was a lot difficult to work with, but our providers kind of took things to a new level. A lot of them opened up food pantries. A lot of them worked, focused on helping people with social services, applying for different benefit, unemployment, helping them navigate systems. So, although our main goals were hindered and they really didn't hit the main goals of the program, they took on a new purpose, and they were open for the public because what happens is a lot of times this population doesn't have technology, or they're limited in data, or limited in the proper technology to apply for different benefits. So, they, held the social distancing rules and had people come in, help them apply for things, help them, continue to make sure if they were eligible for benefits, they were, taken care of. So, they stepped up and changed just to meet the needs of the community. So families, same thing. They always have focused on, helping with applying for benefits. So numbers were a little slowed down, because yes, HRA was working remotely. So, processing food stamps was a little lower than normal. We do have a component of workshops, and actually that worked out a little better than in the past because people had time to attend workshops virtually. So, we had a little bit of an uptick in the workshops that were being done, and they actually, and if you see this, the enrollment was very high. Once again, they had lots of people coming in order to, searching for benefits, looking for things to help them, to do things. And once again, this group also, they opened up food pantries. So they stepped up and switched some of the needs to basic needs that people needed to survive, and did, continue to see people in person if as needed. And, they did pivot to a lot of phone calls, a lot of case management and checking in over the phone, since, virtual meetings were a little bit more difficult for this target population. But all in all, they stepped up, did what they needed to do for their people. And the participants, are persevering, and they're helping them, continue. And that's it.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Ebony. Thank you, Rong. I will close by saying I think one of the themes that we hit and was returned to is the impact of the pandemic. So it's unsurprising. We talked about that, and I've talked about it consistently since March of 2020. So we do look forward to the cities and the providers' efforts to dig out from the pandemic, what they've done so far, what they will do. So I want to commend, I'd say, the many providers whose results and whose impact has been as robust as it has been, considering how tough things have been. And I think in the road ahead, we have some interesting administrative and programmatic things to look at. Hybrid services in some areas have worked. So, we can only wonder aloud later on down the road whether RFPs of the future will have more space and tolerance for, imagining, the different program elements, what would be delivered in person, what can be delivered virtually. We left a little wiggle room for this in the language of the RFP. So the CAB members who are reading the proposals, you've probably seen, we want proposers to be ready in case, Lord forbid, but something like this should happen again in the near term, that providers can adapt on a dime and deliver services through different modalities. So we want to be prepared going forward. But those are the numbers, and that concludes our report. We're available if there are questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Mike, Rong, Kathleen, Ebony, for your report. Your report shows the outstanding job the men and women at DYCD do, and it also shows the outstanding work that's being done for the communities. So thank you very much. I will now entertain a motion to vote to accept the annual report.
Motion to accept by Ariel.
Ariel, thank you. Second,
By Patel.
Ms. Patel,
Yes.
thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board.
Excuse me. Old business. Reminder about quorum. We thank everybody who joined us, so we achieved quorum and enabled us to do the work we need. So thank you all. New business. During the pandemic, the bylaws were changed to reflect the gravity of the situation that was going on at the time. And we put no limit on excused absences. That amendment has expired on July 1st of this year. So please take note of that. So in the coming months, we go back to the regular, bylaws and the excused absences that you're entitled to. Need anything else? As far as
new business, no. And it's one excused absence that you get for the whole program year. So that's from September to June. So just so you remember, and you can look in your bylaws, it's all written out there.
Thank you, Anita.
You're welcome.
Once again, farewell and thank you to Christian Rodriguez for the outstanding service you did to the CAB. I also want to mention the incredible work Eyewitness that Jeff Cohn has done in Brooklyn. And I'm sure that I only saw a little bit of it.
Yes.
We will sorely miss you. We wish you the very best working at NYPD. I'm sure you'll be an incredible asset to them. We wish you the very best. Good luck, Jeff. Also, once again, farewell to the public sector representatives. Thank you for the work you've done. And even though I'm sure that Susie doesn't like her name mentioned over and over, but we are elated that you decided to join the executive board, and we thank you for it. As Thanksgiving approaches next week, and then we have the Hanukkah holiday right afterwards, and at the end of December is Christmas. I would like to take the opportunity to wish everyone happy holidays. I hope it'll be joyous, safe, and blessed as it should be. So happy holidays to all. Also a happy and healthy and safe new year, a year of peace, prosperity, and all the very best to you and to your families. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. It is now 7:52 p.m.
There's two more motions to adjourn.
Chris?
Yep.
Thank you. Seconded by?
Eric Tate.
Eric, thank you. So moved. Thank you all. This concludes our meeting. God bless you all.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank
everyone.
you. Good
Have a
evening.
great Thanksgiving.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
God bless
Happy
all.
holidays.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Holiday.
Mm.